Jake Morrison stood in the huge room filled with strange beings from across the galaxy. The floor was made of smooth white stone that seemed to glow with its own light. Above him, the ceiling stretched so high he could barely see it. Around the room, creatures he had only seen in pictures sat in floating chairs and crystal pods. The human ambassador wore his best uniform, but it felt small and plain compared to the amazing technology around him. His hands were steady, but his heart beat fast. He knew what was coming. The vote had already been decided before he even walked into the room. Lisa Hayes watched from the visitor area above. She was a captain in the human space navy, and she had come to support Jake. Her fingers pressed tight against the metal railing as she listened to the alien voices fill the room. Most of the words came through small devices that changed the alien sounds into English, but she could hear the anger in their voices even without the machines. The Zephyrian Chancellor floated in the center of the room. Her body looked like it was made of living crystal that changed colors as she moved. When she spoke, her voice was cold and final. "We have watched the human race for 50 years, she said. In that time, they have shown us who they really are. They fight with pirates. They build bigger and bigger weapons. They take over planets that do not belong to them. They cannot live in peace with others." Jake wanted to speak up. He wanted to tell them about the good things humans had done, the hospitals they built on alien worlds, the food they shared during the Great Famine on Kepler 7, the way human doctors had worked day and night to cure the plague that almost killed the Altarian people. But he knew it would not matter. The council had made up their minds long ago. A huge reptile creature named Vorth stood up from his chair. His skin was dark green and covered in scales. When he opened his mouth, Jake could see rows of sharp teeth. "Humans are dangerous," Vorth said with a deep, rumbling voice. "They have weapons that can destroy moons. They have ships that can travel faster than anything we have ever seen. They have machines that can think like living beings. No peaceful race needs such things." Other council members began to speak. They talked about human aggression. They said humans were too violent to be part of galactic society. They said Earth's people would never learn to live without war. Jake listened to it all. Every word felt like a punch to his chest. These beings had welcomed humans into their group 20 years ago. They had called Earth's people friends. They had signed treaties and shared technology. Now they spoke as if humans were monsters. Lisa felt her anger growing. 3 times in the past 5 years, human ships had fought with space pirates. 3 times, humans had protected trade routes that carried goods to dozens of worlds. 3 times, they had risked their lives to keep innocent people safe. And this was how the galaxy repaid them. The votes came in one by one. The Aquatic Collective voted to banish humans. The Machine Commonwealth voted to banish humans. The Hive Minds voted to banish humans. One after another, every race in the council said the same thing. Humans were too dangerous to stay. Only 3 races voted to keep humans in the council. The rest wanted them gone. When the final vote was counted, the Chancellor's crystal body flashed bright red. "The decision is made," she announced. "The human race is no longer welcome in the Galactic Council. All human ships must leave council space within 30 days. All trade agreements are ended. All technology sharing is stopped. All communication will be cut off." Jake finally stood up to speak. The room became quiet. Even the creatures who had voted against humans seemed to want to hear what he would say. "You judge us by our weapons," Jake said. His voice was calm, but everyone could hear the sadness in it. "You do not judge us by our hearts. You are afraid of our strength, but you do not ask why we built that strength." He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of every creature that would look back at him. "We built our weapons to protect others, not to hurt them. We made our ships fast, so we could reach people who needed help. We created thinking machines to solve problems that biological minds cannot handle. Everything you fear about us, we made to serve others." The Chancellor's crystal body turned darker. "Your intentions do not matter. Only your actions matter, and your actions show that humans cannot exist in peace." Jake nodded slowly. "Then we will show you what humans do when they stand alone. When the galaxy faces a threat it cannot handle, remember this day." Remember that you chose to push away, the one race that would fight for all the others, even after being rejected. He turned and walked toward the exit. Lisa and the other human representatives followed him. Their footsteps echoed in the huge room as they left Dot behind them. The alien voices started up again. They were already talking about other business, as if banishing an entire race was just another item on their schedule. Outside the council building, Jake looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, and all the human colonies that would now stand alone. They would have no allies, no trade partners, no protection from the council fleet. "What do we do now?" Lisa asked. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had just accepted a challenge. "Now we show them what humans can really do when no one is watching." 5 years had passed since the Galactic Council threw humans out of their group. 5 long years of silence from the stars. No alien messages came to Earth. No trade ships visited human colonies. It was as if the rest of the galaxy had forgotten that humans existed at all. But humans had not been sitting still during those 5 years. Dr. Carl Williams floated in zero gravity as he put the last pieces into place on humanity's greatest creation. Around him, the secret space station buzzed with activity. Workers in spacesuits moved like busy ants, building something that had never existed before. The station hid behind Saturn's moon Titan, where no alien spy could find it. The workers had been told to keep everything secret. Their families thought they were building mining equipment or new space habitats. Only a few people knew the truth about what was really taking shape in the construction bays. Carl pushed himself away from the wall and floated toward the viewing window. What he saw there made his heart beat faster, even after all these months of work. The ship was huge, longer than the biggest buildings on Earth. Its hull was dark and smooth, but sometimes it seemed to shimmer and fade, like looking at something through water. The metal was not like anything humans had built before. It could shift and change, becoming solid when it needed to be strong, and becoming like a ghost when weapons tried to hit it. Admiral Beth Parker joined Carl at the window. She had been in charge of the project from the beginning, working 18 hours a day to make sure everything was perfect. Her hair had turned gray during the 5 years of work, but her eyes were still sharp and determined. "Are we really doing this, Carl?" she asked quietly. "Are we really building something this dangerous?" Carl adjusted his glasses and looked at his life's work. The ship they had built was more than just a weapon. It was powered by a captured star, no bigger than a basketball, but burning with the heat of a sun. Its weapons could tear apart the fabric of space itself. Its defenses could make it invisible to any sensor ever created. "Beth, they threw us out for having simple fusion reactors and basic energy weapons," Carl said. "What we have built here goes far beyond their worst nightmares. But sometimes the only way to earn respect is to be feared." Inside the ship, workers were installing the final systems. The artificial intelligence that would help control the vessel was so advanced that it almost seemed alive. It could think faster than any biological brain, and it could control thousands of systems at the same time. The ship's name was painted on its side in simple letters: UES Vengeance. It was not a subtle name, but then again, humans were not feeling subtle after 5 years of exile. While the secret project continued, other humans were working on the edges of known space. Captain Rick Taylor led a group of ships that patrolled the outer regions, watching for threats that might come from the dark spaces between stars. Rick had volunteered for the lonely job of frontier patrol. His ships were small and fast, built to run away from trouble rather than fight it. But they had the best sensors humans could build, and they could send messages faster than any alien communication system. On a cold Tuesday morning, Rick's sensors picked up something that made no sense. The object was moving through space toward the inner systems. It was big, maybe as large as a small moon, but it was not natural. It twisted and writhed like something alive, but it was made of dark metal that seemed to eat light instead of reflecting it. When Rick tried to scan it with his ship's sensors, the readings came back wrong. The computer said the object was there, and not there at the same time. They said it was solid and liquid and gas all at once. They said it was hot enough to melt steel and cold enough to freeze air. "Computer, Run the scan again, Rick ordered. The computer tried, but the results were the same. Whatever was out there did not follow the normal rules of physics. Rick sent a message back to Earth as fast as he could. He included all the sensor data and a simple note: "We are not alone and we are not safe." The message reached Admiral Parker 3 days later. She was still on the secret station, watching the final tests on the Vengeance's weapon systems. When she read Rick's report, she felt a chill run down her spine. She called Dr. Williams to the communication room and showed him the data. "What do you think it is?" she asked. Carl studied the readings for a long time. His face grew more worried with each page he read. "I think it is something very old," he finally said. "Something that has been sleeping in the dark spaces for a very long time, and now it is waking up." More reports started coming in from other patrol ships. The strange objects were appearing in multiple systems, always moving toward the areas where intelligent life existed. They did not respond to any attempts at communication. They did not seem to notice the small human ships that watched them from a distance. But wherever they went, planets went silent. Space stations stopped transmitting. Entire colonies seemed to simply vanish without sending any distress calls. The Galactic Council was starting to notice too. Their own patrol ships were sending reports about the mysterious objects. But they had much bigger fleets than the humans, so they decided to investigate more closely. That was their first mistake. The Council fleet that went to check on the objects never came back. 27 ships with crews of thousands simply disappeared. The last message from their commander was short and terrifying. "They are not ships. They are something else. Something hungry. Send help. Send everything you have." Then silence. Admiral Parker read the intercepted Council messages with growing concern. Whatever was out there had just destroyed a fleet that was 10 times larger than anything humans could build. And it was still moving toward the inner systems where billions of people lived. She looked out the window at the Vengeance floating in its construction bay. The ship was almost ready. Its weapons were installed. Its defenses were tested. Its artificial intelligence was awake and learning. But was it enough? Could one ship, even one as advanced as this, stand against something that could make entire fleets disappear? "Carl," she said quietly, "I think we are about to find out if 5 years of secret work was enough." Dr. Williams nodded grimly. "The Council threw us out because they were afraid of what we might become. Now they are about to learn what we actually became." Far away, in the cold depths of space, the ancient things continued their slow journey toward the light. They had been sleeping for millions of years, but now they were awake and hungry. They had consumed countless civilizations before, and they were ready to consume countless more. The galaxy was about to face its greatest threat, and the only people who might be able to stop it were the ones they had thrown away. Admiral Zethkar had commanded fleets for 30 years. He had fought space pirates, stopped civil wars, and kept peace across dozens of star systems. He thought he had seen every kind of danger the galaxy could offer. He was wrong. The thing that appeared on his ship's main screen looked like a nightmare made real. It was the size of a small city, but it moved and twisted like something alive. Its surface was covered in dark metal that seemed to drink in the light from his ship's spotlights. Strange patterns flowed across its hull like veins carrying black blood. "Sir, our weapons are locked on target," reported his tactical officer, a young Altarian whose blue skin had turned pale with fear. "All ships open fire," Zethkar ordered. 50 warships fired at once. Energy beams that could melt through asteroid belts struck the creature's hull. Missiles that could destroy space stations exploded against its surface. The combined firepower was enough to level a city. The creature did not even slow down. Instead, something impossible happened. The dark metal began to spread outward from the impact points like living ink. It reached out with tendrils that moved, faster than any ship could run. When the tendrils touched Zethkar's vessels, the alien warships began to dissolve. "Sir, the hull is coming apart," his engineer screamed. "But it is not being destroyed. It is being absorbed. The metal is joining with that thing." Zethkar watched in horror as his flagship's armor plating peeled away in long strips. The metal flowed through space toward the creature, which grew larger as it consumed more material. All ships retreat immediately, he ordered. But it was too late. The creature had tasted their technology and wanted more. It moved faster now, reaching out with hundreds of tendrils to grab the fleeing ships. One by one, Zethkar's fleet was pulled in and consumed. His last message was short. Command, this is Admiral Zethkar. The enemy is not destroying our ships. It is eating them. The metal, the energy, even our crew. Nothing we have can hurt it. Send word to all fleets. Do not engage. Do not even get close. These things are not ships. They are predators and we are their prey. The transmission ended when his ship was torn apart and absorbed like all the others. On the Council homeworld of Nexus Prime, the emergency meetings had been going on for days without stopping. The great chamber where representatives from 47 worlds usually debated trade agreements and territorial disputes now buzzed with panic. The Zephyrian Chancellor's crystal body flashed angry red colors as report after report came in. 17 star systems had gone completely silent. No radio signals, no emergency beacons, no signs of life at all. Where millions of people had once lived and worked, there was only empty space and dark planets. How many ships have we lost? Asked General Krex, the military commander of the outer defense zones. 237, came the grim reply. Every fleet we have sent to investigate these creatures has been destroyed or absorbed. Our latest intelligence suggests there are at least 50 of the entities, and they are all moving toward the core worlds. The council chamber erupted in frightened voices. Representatives who had spent their careers arguing about minor trade disputes were now facing the end of their civilizations. Councillor Vren of the Aquatic Collective rose from his water-filled chair. His tentacles waved nervously as he spoke. Perhaps it is time to consider options we have previously rejected. The humans were always known for their military technology. Their weapons were more advanced than anything we possessed. The suggestion caused an uproar. The Thraxian delegate, the same Vorth who had argued for human banishment 5 years earlier, slammed his clawed fist on his desk. You would invite those warmongers back? You would ask the wolves to protect the sheep? Humans are barely more civilized than these machine creatures. But even as Vorth spoke, his voice carried less conviction than before. Fear was making even the proudest species reconsider their past decisions. Councillor Vren continued. 5 years ago, we banished them for having fusion reactors and particle weapons. We said their technology was too dangerous for civilized society. Now we face an enemy that makes their old weapons look like children's toys. The Chancellor's crystal form flickered with uncertainty. The decision to exile humanity had been hers. She had cast the deciding vote that sent Earth's representatives away in shame and anger. Even if we contacted them, she said slowly, why would they help us? We rejected them. We called them dangerous. We cut off all communication and trade. They have no reason to risk their lives for people who threw them away. General Krex pulled up a tactical display that showed the creature's projected path through the galaxy. Red dots marked the systems that had already gone silent. Yellow dots showed where the creatures were now. Green dots marked the core worlds where most of the council species lived. At their current rate of advancement, the creatures will reach the core worlds in 4 months, Krex announced. Our remaining fleets cannot stop them. Every engagement has ended in complete defeat. The room fell silent as the representatives stared at the display. The green dots representing their home worlds seemed very small and fragile compared to the advancing red tide dot. Finally, Councillor Vren spoke again. I propose we send a message to Earth. Not as superiors speaking to inferiors, but as people asking for help. We explain the situation and request assistance. And what makes you think they will respond? Asked the Chancellor. Because they are human, Vren replied simply. For all our fears about their violent nature, they have never refused to help someone in need. Even when we banished them, they left peacefully. They did not seek revenge. They simply went home and closed their doors. The debate continued for hours, but the reality of their situation was becoming clear to everyone. The Galactic Council, with all its advanced technology and combined fleets, could not stop the ancient creatures. Their only hope lay with the species they had rejected and feared. In the end, the vote was closer than anyone expected. 24 worlds voted to contact humanity. 23 voted against it. The deciding vote came from the Chancellor herself, who had spent the night staring at casualty reports and evacuation plans. "We will send the message," she announced. "May whatever gods still watch over us have mercy on our foolish pride." The message was brief and desperate. To the government of Earth and her colonies, the Galactic Council faces an existential threat that our combined forces cannot defeat. Ancient entities are consuming entire star systems, including all life and technology. We formally request immediate military assistance. All previous political differences are hereby set aside. Humanity's response will determine the fate of 47 civilizations. The message was sent toward Earth on the fastest communication system the Council possessed. It would take 3 days to reach human space. In those 3 days, 5 more systems went silent. Captain Lisa Hayes, now serving aboard humanity's most classified project, received the message while reviewing the final test results for the Vengeance's weapon systems. She read it twice, then walked to Admiral Parker's office. "Beth, you need to see this," she said, handing over the communication pad. Admiral Parker read the message in silence. When she finished, she looked up with an expression that mixed satisfaction with sadness. 5 years too late," she said quietly. 5 years after they threw us out, they finally admit they need us. "Are we going to help them?" Lisa asked. Parker walked to the window and looked out at the Vengeance. The massive ship floated in its construction bay, its quantum phase hull shimmering between dimensions. Every weapon system was tested and ready. Every defensive system was operating at peak efficiency. Captain Hayes prepped the ship for immediate departure, she ordered, "and send a message to the Council. Tell them we are coming." What should the message say? Admiral Parker smiled, but it was not a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who had been proven right in the most terrible way possible. "Tell them that the dangerous humans they banished are on their way, and this time, they brought their most dangerous weapon." The alarms in the Nexus system started screaming at exactly 14:32 Galactic Standard Time. Every sensor station, every monitoring post, every defense platform detected the same impossible reading. Something massive had just appeared at the edge of the system, but their computers could not figure out what it was. The duty officer at Central Command stared at his screen with confusion. "Sir, we have an object at grid reference 77 Alpha, but the sensors cannot get a clear reading. It appears to be there and not there at the same time." Admiral Krex rushed to the command center, still wearing his sleeping clothes. In the 3 days since they had sent their desperate message to Earth, he had barely slept. The creatures had consumed 2 more star systems, and evacuation fleets were struggling to stay ahead of the advancing threat. "Show me," he ordered. The main display activated, showing the outer edge of the Nexus system. At first, there was nothing visible except stars and empty space. Then, like a ghost becoming solid, something began to appear. It was huge. Larger than any ship the Council had ever built. Its hull was dark and smooth, but it seemed to flicker and fade at the edges, as if it was not completely part of normal space. Strange patterns of light moved across its surface like electricity flowing through metal veins. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission," the communications officer announced. "Put it through." The screen changed to show the inside of what was clearly a starship bridge. But it looked like no bridge any council member had ever seen. The walls were covered with displays showing information in ways that seemed almost alive. Control stations flowed smoothly into each other, and the lighting had a quality that made everything look sharp and dangerous. In the center of this technological marvel stood a human woman in a crisp military uniform. Her hair was gray now, streaked with silver, and her face showed the lines that came from years of hard decisions. But her eyes were still sharp, and they burned with an intensity that made several council members step backward from their screens. "This is Admiral Beth Parker of the United Earthship Vengeance," she announced, Her voice carried across the council chambers with absolute authority. "We received your request for assistance. We are here to help." The Zephyrian Chancellor's crystal form flickered with nervous energy. She remembered Admiral Parker from 5 years ago. But the woman on the screen looked harder now, more dangerous. The years of exile had changed her. "Admiral Parker, we are grateful that you responded to our call," the Chancellor began carefully. "The situation is grave. These entities have destroyed everything we have sent against them." Entities. Parker's smile was cold as the space between stars. "Is that what you are calling them?" "Let me tell you what we call them, Chancellor. We call them devourers because that is what they do. They consume everything in their path. Technology, energy, organic, matter. They have been sleeping in the dark spaces between galaxies for millions of years, and now they are awake and hungry." Dr. Carl Williams appeared beside Parker on the screen. The mild-mannered scientist the council remembered was gone, replaced by someone whose eyes held the focused intensity of a person who had spent 5 years pushing the boundaries of the impossible. "You want to know what we built during our exile?" Williams asked. "You want to know what humans create when we stop trying to make our neighbors comfortable?" Behind them, the ship's tactical display showed information that made every council, military expert freeze in shock. The Vengeance carried weapons that manipulated fundamental forces of the universe. Its defenses could shift the ship partially out of normal space-time. Its power source was a contained star that provided more energy than entire star systems used. "The ship you are looking at," Williams continued, "represents 5 years of unrestrained human innovation. No treaties limiting our research. No committees questioning our methods. No fear of making other species uncomfortable. This is what humanity builds when we stop holding back." General Krex found his voice. "Admiral, our combined fleets could not even scratch these creatures. What makes you think one ship, even one as advanced as yours, can succeed where hundreds have failed?" Parker's expression did not change, but something dangerous flickered in her eyes. "General, 5 years ago, you threw us out because you were afraid of what we might become. You said our technology was too dangerous for civilized society. You were afraid we would build weapons that could threaten entire worlds." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You were right to be afraid, but you were wrong about who we would threaten." The tactical display behind her changed, showing detailed scans of the nearest devourer. The ancient machine was 3 times larger than the biggest council warship, its dark hull covered with systems that defied easy classification. "We have been studying these creatures for months," Parker continued. "While you were sending fleet after fleet to be consumed, we were learning how they work. We know their weaknesses. We know how to hurt them." Lieutenant Danny Ross appeared at one of the control stations visible on the screen. He was young, probably born after the exile, but he moved with the confidence of someone who had trained on the most advanced systems in human space. "Admiral, the Council Defense Fleet is trying to get weapon locks on us," he reported calmly. Parker looked directly at the Chancellor. 43 of your ships have their weapons trained on us right now. After we came here to help you, your first instinct is still to point guns at humans." The Chancellor's crystal form flushed dark red with embarrassment. "Admiral, that is standard procedure for any unknown vessel. No offense was intended." "Unknown vessel?" Parker's laugh was sharp and bitter. "Chancellor, this ship exists because you threw us away. Every system, every weapon, every piece of technology you see here was developed in response to your rejection. You created us by trying to get rid of us." The tension in the council chambers was thick enough to cut with a blade. Representatives whispered to each other in dozens of languages, their voices creating a buzz of nervous energy. Captain Rick Taylor, now serving as the Vengeance's tactical officer, stepped forward. "Admiral, long-range sensors are detecting 3 devourers moving toward the Kepler Nebula. There is an evacuation convoy in their path." Parker nodded grimly. "How many ships in the convoy?" 3,000 civilian vessels, mostly families from the outer colonies. The council representatives watched as the humans processed this information with calm efficiency. There was no panic, no desperate scrambling for solutions. Just quiet professionalism and the kind of determination that came from years of being rejected and having to rely only on themselves. "Chancellor," Parker said, turning back to the communication screen. "Your evacuation convoy has about 6 hours. Before those devourers reach them, your fastest ships could not get there in time to help. Your weapons could not stop the creatures even if they could arrive in time." She paused, letting the implications sink in. "But we can get there, and we can stop them." The Chancellor's voice was barely above a whisper. "What do you want in return?" "Nothing," Parker replied simply. "When humanity gives its word to protect innocent people, we do not ask for payment. We do not calculate the cost. We just do what needs to be done." The communication screen went dark as the Vengeance cut the transmission. On sensors, the massive ship began to fade from normal space, its quantum phase drive allowing it to slip between dimensions like a ghost dot. In the council chambers, 47 species sat in stunned silence. The humans they had banished as too dangerous for civilized society had just offered to risk their lives to save people who had rejected them. Councillor Vren spoke first. "They are going to face 3 devourers alone. 1 ship against 3 entities that destroyed our entire fleet. They will be slaughtered," Forth muttered, but his voice carried less conviction than usual. General Krex stared at the tactical display showing the evacuation convoy's position. 3,000 ships full of families, children, elderly people, who had done nothing wrong except be in the wrong place at the wrong time. "No," he said quietly. "I think we are about to find out what humans really are when they stop trying to fit in with the rest of us. I think we are about to learn why we were right to fear them and wrong to send them away." The Vengeance disappeared into hyperspace, carrying humanity's answer to 5 years of exile. In 6 hours, the galaxy would learn what price civilization paid when it rejected the people willing to fight for it. The evacuation convoy stretched across space like a river of lights. 3,000 ships of every size and design carried the survivors from a dozen worlds. Families who had lost their homes, children who had never known war, elderly people who remembered when the galaxy was safe. All of them were running from the ancient terror that consumed everything in its path. Captain Helen Morris commanded the convoy from her position on the lead transport ship. She had been evacuating refugees for 3 months now, always staying 1 step ahead of the creatures that devoured entire civilizations. But this time was different. This time, there was nowhere left to run. "Captain, long-range sensors are detecting the entities," her sensor officer reported. 3 of them, approaching from galactic north. Estimated time to intercept is 4 hours and 17 minutes. Helen closed her eyes for a moment. 4 hours. Not enough time to reach the safety of the inner systems. Not enough time for any council fleet to come help them, even if any fleet still existed. She opened the communication channel to all ships in the convoy. "This is Captain Morris. I will not lie to you about our situation. The entities will reach us before we can escape. But I want you to know that we have sent a distress signal to every remaining fleet in the galaxy. If help is coming, it will find us." She did not mention that every fleet sent against the entities had been destroyed. She did not mention that the creatures had never been stopped, never been hurt, never even slowed down. There was no point in spreading despair. In the depths of space, the 3 devourers moved with terrible purpose. Each one was the size of a city, their dark hulls covered with the absorbed remains of 100 different civilizations. They had consumed the metal of warships, the energy of power plants, even the organic matter of the crews who had tried to fight them. The entities did not communicate with each other in any way that normal minds could understand. They simply existed, hunger-given form, ancient and patient and utterly without mercy. The convoy's sensors tracked their approach. 4 hours became 3. 3 became 2. The civilian ships were not fast enough to escape, and they had no weapons that could even scratch the entities' hulls. Then something impossible happened. Space itself seemed to tear open between the convoy and the approaching entities. Reality flickered and twisted, and through the gap stepped a ship that belonged in nightmares or dreams. The UES Vengeance materialized from hyperspace like a ghost becoming solid. Its kilometer-long hull was darker than the space around it, but patterns of light flowed across its surface like electricity through metal veins. Parts of the ship seemed to fade in and out of normal reality, existing partially in other dimensions. On the Vengeance's bridge, Admiral Parker watched the tactical display with calm focus. The three entities were clearly visible now, writhing, masses of dark metal that moved through space with predatory grace. "Quantum phase armor to maximum dispersion," she ordered. "Let these things see what human engineering looks like when we stop following the rules." The Vengeance began to flicker and fade, its quantum systems allowing it to exist partially in subspace while maintaining its ability to affect normal reality. The ship was there and not there at the same time, solid enough to fire weapons but ghost-like enough to avoid incoming attacks. Lieutenant Danny Ross worked at his station with the calm efficiency of someone who had trained for this moment for years. "Admiral, all weapon systems are online. Dimensional cascade generators are charged and ready." "Dr. Williams, are the containment fields stable?" Parker asked. From his position at the science station, Carl Williams nodded grimly. "The miniaturized star is holding steady. Power output is at maximum sustainable levels. We have enough energy to fight for hours if necessary." The lead devourer detected the Vengeance and changed course toward it. The ancient entity had consumed thousands of ships over millions of years. To its alien intelligence, this was simply another meal, another source of metal and energy to add to its growing mass. It opened fire with weapons that had destroyed entire fleets. Beams of energy that could melt through asteroid belts struck the space where the Vengeance should have been. The beams passed harmlessly through empty space. "Quantum phase successful," Ross reported. "Enemy weapons cannot lock onto us while we are partially in subspace." The devourer paused, its sensor arrays trying to understand what had happened. In its millions of years of existence, it had never encountered prey that could simply stop existing in normal space. Admiral Parker smiled coldly. "Now let us show these things what humans learned during 5 years of exile. Target the lead entity's primary power nodes. Fire dimensional cascade weapons." The Vengeance's main batteries opened fire, and space itself screamed. The weapons did not simply shoot energy or matter at their target. They reached into the fundamental forces that held reality together and twisted them into shapes that should not exist. Where the cascade weapons struck the devourer, its hull began to unravel at the quantum level. The dark metal that had absorbed the matter of entire civilizations simply stopped existing, breaking down into component atoms that scattered like dust in the solar wind. The ancient entity reeled backward, damaged for the first time in eons. Its hull flickered and writhed as repair systems tried to understand what had happened to it. But the Vengeance was not finished. "Target the second entity," Parker ordered. Full spread of cascade torpedoes, missiles that contained miniature reality, distortions launched from the ship's torpedo tubes. When they struck their target, sections of the second devourer's hull folded in on themselves and disappeared into dimensions that had no names. The third entity tried to retreat, its ancient intelligence finally understanding that it faced something truly dangerous. But the Vengeance was faster, its quantum drive allowing it to move through folded space faster than any conventional engine. "No," Admiral Parker said quietly. "You do not get to run. You do not get to find some other convoy to devour. This ends here." The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, 3 entities that had terrorized the galaxy for months had been reduced to scattered atoms floating in empty space. The evacuation convoy was safe. Captain Morris stared at her sensors. In disbelief, the readings made no sense. The entities were simply gone, as if they had never existed at all. A communication request came through from the strange human ship. Morris accepted it, and found herself looking at a woman whose eyes held the quiet satisfaction of someone who had just proven a point that was 5 years in the making. "This is Admiral Parker of the UES Vengeance. The threat to your convoy has been eliminated. You are free to continue to your destination." "Admiral," Morris stammered, "how did you do that?" Those things destroyed everything the Council sent against them. Parker's expression softened slightly. Captain, the Council sent conventional weapons against an unconventional enemy. They sent ships designed to fight other ships against entities that existed outside normal physics. We sent a ship designed to break the rules of reality itself. Dr. Williams appeared beside Parker on the screen. The entities were powerful, but they were also ancient. They had not adapted to face weapons that could attack them on multiple dimensional levels simultaneously. They were like swords trying to fight lightning. As the Vengeance prepared to return to human space, messages began flooding in from across the galaxy. 3 million people owed their lives to humanity's most dangerous creation. Word spread from system to system about the human ship that had done the impossible. In the council chambers on Nexus Prime, the representatives sat in stunned silence as they watched recordings of the battle. The creatures that had seemed unstoppable had been destroyed in minutes by a single human vessel. The Zephyrian Chancellor's crystal form flickered with emotions too complex to name. 5 years ago, she had cast the deciding vote to exile humanity because their technology was too dangerous for civilized society. Now that same dangerous technology had saved civilization itself. Ambassador Jake Morrison received the Council's formal invitation to return while he was reviewing reports from human colonies. The message was very different from the rejection he had received 5 years earlier. The Galactic Council hereby extends its deepest apologies to the human race for past errors in judgment. We formally invite Earth and all human colonies to resume their place in galactic society with full membership and voting rights. We recognize that humanity's strength was never a threat to civilization, but rather its greatest protection. Jake read the message twice, then walked to his office window where he could see Earth's blue skies and white clouds. Somewhere out there among the stars, the Vengeance was returning home, carrying the respect that had been earned through actions rather than words. When he finally responded to the Council's invitation, his message was brief and carried the quiet dignity of a people who had been proven right in the most terrible way possible. The human race will always stand ready to defend innocent life, regardless of politics or past grievances. We accept your invitation, but with one understanding. Never again will any species have the right to judge whether humanity deserves to stand among the stars. Our actions will speak for our character, and history will judge whether the galaxy was safer with us as part of it or apart from it.